Welcome to the in-depth tutorial on how to hook up the sibling skeleton to the big box of mystery. We're also going to take a look not only at the hardware, but we're going to record a routine that actually communicates these two skeletons together. And we're also going to look at the software in a little bit in-depth way of how you can link the Track Skull and the Helmsman Pro together so that you can actually break the routine and go live and then go back into your routine. So stay tuned. We're going to check out the hardware right now. Okay, here's what's included with the sibling skeleton. 50 feet of Ethernet, 4 jumping cables that will go from the SSC32 to the sending board. You're going to have 4 standoffs and the sending board. So how to install the sending board? You take the standoffs, you install them in 4 pre-drilled holes on the big box of mystery, and then you place your sending board on top of those, and then you can screw them down with the 4 screws supplied. Now let's get into the jumper cables. The jumper cable is going to be very important how we orientate them. Now what's great is Sad Susan already comes pre-wired. Each section of the SS32 has 4 rows of prongs. Each row has 3 prongs. So as long as we remember that the yellow is the signal wire, goes on the inside of the board, you're going to be good to go. And the way this works is this will be Sad Susan 0, 1, 2, 3, and the next skeleton would be 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Now what this will represent later in the software is we're going to actually change and assign the buttons and the servos that we want that correlate to these numbers, the 4, 5, 6, 7. Over here on the sending board we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this number here doesn't really matter to us as far as software. It's these numbers that matter for the software. This is going to communicate to that board, go through the Ethernet wire, and communicate to the receiving board in the back of the skeleton. So as long as we have these numbers established and written down as to what moves what, say the button for the jaw is going to be assigned to number 4. Say the right shoulder is assigned to number 5, the left shoulder number 6, and then the eyes could be number 7. When we have that information, that's what we'll put input into the software. So what we'll do here, what's important here, is it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 on the receiving board. So if we know our jaw movement is going to be on 1 on the receiving board inside the skeleton, which that's where it is going to be plugged in, then we want to be 1 over here on the sending board to number 4. And that way we know that this button is going to be number 4 for our jaw, which correlates to the number 1 and the number 1, and so on. So it's pretty simple. You don't ever have to worry about the back of the skeleton as far as the plugins go. That'll come pre-wired. Susan will come pre-wired. So when you add this sibling, all you're looking to do is just understand that number 1 is going to be the jaw, number 2 is going to be the shoulder, number 3 is going to be a shoulder, and 4 will be the option of the eyes. And so over here we'll plug that in. Now here's the deal, if you did it wrong, it's not a big deal. All you have to do is simply go in and adjust where you have those settings, because what happens, you just want to change those wires to where they're appropriate, because what will happen is when you do get your data into the software, if you have it on the wrong position and you have too much, let's say your setting is at like 2200 but you only wanted to set it to 1700, that means that servo is going to go further than what you'd really want it to be. So it is important to understand that. And it's pretty simple, so I'm going to try to dive in here and I will set this up, since this is a super long video anyways. I don't know how this is going to exactly come through, but we will try this. So basically I'm going to take my wire here, and on these it's the same concept. You want the yellow to be on the inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this in position 1. Okay, here we go. We have the wire. What I like to do is like to come underneath. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want to do there, but I want that gold wire or yellow wire going on the inside, and we're going to go to number 4. Another tip, make sure you have it seated in all 3 prongs, because these are going to have a brown wire or red wire. Let me get that in the camera. I'm not sure if I can focus. And the goldish yellow. So the goldish yellow is your signal wire. Now we're going to go for our right shoulder, and we'll go over here to number 5. Our left shoulder. I'm just making sure I have the orientation of that wire, that signal wire on the inside. And gotta make sure I got all 3 prongs connected. And we're gonna do this one here. It'll be our last one for the eyes. Sometimes it's very easy to plug this in, and maybe you only have 2 prongs plugged in instead of the 3. So you always want to kind of check that out, make sure they're securely seated, and you're good to go. So now that this is done, we could put the top back on it, screw it back down, and then hook it up just like you would with the other videos. You're going to do your Ethernet cable go into the Sibling will now be this one. Sad Susan will be the first port. So second port will be the ones we just installed. And naturally you'll do your USB cable and your power adapter. And once we have that rocking and rolling, let's head over to the software. Okay, so now we have the hardware hooked up for the Sibling skeleton. So now we have Track Skull opened up, and on the right hand side of the screen I just have the servo data for Sad Susan, and I've already input that in here, so we're going to just check it to verify it. But the first thing we want to do is connect our joystick, and we'll connect that. If you want to have filters on your joystick, this kind of smooths out your motions. I'm going to go no filters for right now. And the next thing you want to do is make sure we're on SSC32. I don't want to reset the servo values that are stored in here because it's already set for Sad Susan. Then we're going to have to look at our port, hit refresh, come down to COM3. And then this baud rate we can keep. Mine works at 9600. Yours should be the same, but I think this baud rate is actually something, communication for this particular board anyways. Before we hit this button, we're going to go back over here and look. And we're going to verify those numbers are the same. These are the numbers. Remember, the jaw is going to be my trigger button. So that is going to be set to 0 on that SSC32 board. That's where the server location is. So that's what these represent, servo numbers. And we're going to change these for the Sibling skeleton later when we record its routines. This button here, we want to enable it because right here is going to allow us to interrupt the routine on Helmsman Pro so that we can do a live routine in mid of any routine that's playing. So that's actually pretty cool because we want to enable that to be able to say if your guests are coming up like trick-or-treating or yard hunt or whatever, and you want to engage with them on a live, in a live way, you can have this communicate to Helmsman Pro and stop the routine and immediately go live and then go back into Helmsman Pro after you're done. So we'll hit OK. And now we're good to click connect. And now you should see your skeleton moving. Buttons are working, so we're good. Now we're going to add audio. And I have a little recorded, it's called Talk Test. And what we're going to do here is, again, when you record, there's no real like count in or anything like that. So you've got to be kind of on top of it. So you can just do this a couple times until you get what you want. So let's try this now.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
It's so nice to meet you.
Okay, and then when the audio file is done, this will pop up a lot of times with the recording complete, and we can replay that.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
It's so nice to meet you.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy with that. We'll export this. I want to make sure all those settings match, so they do not. So we'll go and we'll import the settings and values that I set for Sad Susan. And again, we're going to have to change these to our location of the servers that are plugged in. We're doing 0, 1, 2, 3. This is a very important step to make sure that all lines up. And everything looks good from there. All the same values. Yep. So now we can hit Browse. I'm just going to save it to the desktop. We're going to name it Talk Test 1. That's going to be her routine. Hit OK. Again, this will pop up to let you know how to import it to VSA. Plus, it'll remind you to check your settings, which we'll get to that in a little bit. Now we're going to record Franklin's. So we're going to disconnect. And I'm going to get rid of this for right now by minimizing it. I got another screenshot here that I could pull in. Now, you'll notice that the servo locations are changed because this is where we've plugged in was 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm starting with the 4 because that's our jaw. And I'm going to change these values. And we have our reverse on the first axis instead of the second one. And we enabled that. Click OK. And what I'm going to do just for the fun of it, we're going to add that recording back in here just to make sure it didn't go anywhere. We can click to connect. And now I have Franklin moving. So, all right, here we go. Overwrite.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
It's so nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
It's so nice to meet you.
Okay, so my timing's a little off on Franklin, but just to get through it. We want to import the servos, and once again, we need to change these to these numbers here. So we'll start with the jaw. We know this is 7, 5, 6. And we double check by just checking those numbers over, and we look good. So now we can go to Browse. I'm going to go to Desktop, and we'll name this Talk Test 2. Okay, so that popped up over here. So we can go ahead and minimize this. And we want to totally close out of TrackSkull. The next app we're going to need, or software we're going to need, is the VSA program. And in here, we're going to first start with the settings. So we can name our device. So I'll go ahead and name these, like the jaw, see the movements as we do some color code changes here, so we'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing I want to do here is do the SSC 32 servo. Okay, next thing we want to do is go to the port and choose COM3. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we need to open back up this screen for me or for your paperwork, and we're going to refer to Sad Susan's values. So let's see here. I could probably move that. We're looking at the jaw here. So the maximum is the higher number, so we'd go 2,000. The lower number would be the minimum, and that would be 1,300. And then where it says default, the normal number is 2,000. So that'll be our default position, because remember, these are buttons. The next one would be the shoulder. Minimum 1,350, default 1,350, since that's the normal button default right there. Now for Franklin's, I can get rid of this, open up his picture, and we'll go to Franklin's jaw, and it's 1,500 for the maximum. Minimum is 1,200, 1,500 for normal. $1,600, $1,600. Now we can go and we can actually change the colors. And to keep it simple, if I just want to see like the eye, the mouth, we can kind of keep the same colors going for the shoulders and things of that nature. Oh, I hit that totally wrong. All right, then we hit OK. Now what we want to do is, since that's set, we're going to go ahead and import. We'll do test 1. So now you can see the colors. We have the jaw, we have shoulder, and eyes. And we're going to hit another import, and this is how you get your skeletons, additional skeletons, because we recorded them on devices 4, 5, 6, and 7. You could just keep going on and on and on all the way up to 32 with the SSC, so that 32 board, so that allows you to have 8 skeletons. So that's pretty awesome. So now what we can do is we can go back to tools. We can load our audio file, and we hit add. These little dots here, go back to my file that had the same deal, talk test. Okay, now the next step we need to do is, remember, we have some of these reversed. On Susan, I have access 2 reversed. On Franklin, I have access 1 reversed. Track Skull, when it actually exports, it does not export this information. So we're actually going to go into the VSA tools, and what we do is we come down to track adjustments, and we first of all hit the track that we want to adjust. That would be her shoulder 2 for her. And we come here, double click that to servo reverse, double click the update settings and change it to false, hit OK. We have to do the same thing for Franklin's shoulder, which is axis 1, which is device 5. So we look here and we see the 5. Click that. It's already set that because we've already changed the servo into reverse. Hit false on that. Now that just reversed those shoulders, so now we can watch and see how they play out.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
It's so nice to meet you.
Okay, so that looked great. And now we're ready to save these. So we go to Save As, and we're going to go back to Desktop, and I'm just going to put in Talking Test. And now we're done with this, all of this here. Next step, we're going to open up Helmsman Pro. And I'm going to move that out of the way so I can get to track stall. Tell you what, no, let's just do this. Yeah, we can do track stall after this because we need to actually save the routine before we can use track stall with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to load in the talking test. There's a couple things we're going to talk about in here to go a little bit more in depth. Options, let's go there first. One of the things we're going to want to do is we're going to make sure this COM port is COM3. And this is a trigger type, so you have triggers over here. Right now we're going to use keyboard and mouse, and we can assign these some buttons, for the triggers to do different things for routines and stuff. They also are compatible with different devices. This is your remote control network port, so it's automatically default set to this. You shouldn't really need to worry about this. There are instructions if you do need to. And I'll tell you what this is about. This is like for the actual remote to work on your iPhone and or Android. So let's go ahead, and this all looks good now. We're on COM3, and we'll probably, when we re-upload it, we may need to change that setting. We're going to look at that later. So what I want to do right now is we have it on loop. That's engaged. We can also do random. So if you had a bunch here of different routines and you just want to randomize it, you can do that. So we're going to actually assign a critical routine, and what this actually lets you do is it eliminates the load time. So I'm going to go ahead and take our routine here, and it's actually going to preload in. These are triggers, so if we enable that, they light up, and if you hold your mouse over it, it tells you what buttons do which input. So Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, and so on. And what you could do here is you can edit, and so we just have one routine in here, but if you, let's say you had several of them, you can come in here and you can assign that trigger Alt 1 to be, let's say, play if nothing is playing and stop. I mean, you can assign it to do things. You can assign it to just pause by just hitting that button, Alt 1, and absolutely you can have some control that's a little faster than your mouse and stuff. So that becomes kind of useful when we break live. There's things that we can assign to make it a little bit accessible as well. So let's just leave that alone for now. Right here, I'm gonna disable that. Oh no, let me show you this. This is clock and timed. So let's say you want to have a routine start at 7 p.m. and your door's shut at 9 p.m. and you want the routine to stop. You can literally set a clock right here for your routine to start and stop. You also can assign, let's say you have guests coming through every 5 minutes or so, you can assign your routine to start like within a certain time, like 5 minutes or 56 minutes, whatever you want to assign there. Also, this is a great feature if you just have sound effects that you want, like some spooky wind or some werewolf howls. You can actually have that routine recorded in here and assigned,
and you can have it loop, like, if you wanted to activate every 15 minutes a werewolf sound or something like that. This is a great way to do that. So that's a really cool feature. So let me get out of that. These naturally are switches for other devices they're compatible to. This link right here, if we hit this auto start playlist, so every time when we save this, we're going to actually see this feature start running. But whenever you load or like open up the program, the saved file, it's going to automatically start. So that's a pretty cool feature. Now here's the link. This link enables you to basically break the routine and go live with your joystick to be able to communicate. Now, of course, you need to have, a mic that's set up with your sound, like a speaker and stuff, so you can communicate and things like that with your guest. But it's a very effective way to engage the customer or engage the guest in a personal way that really creates a great memory. So this is very valuable. Now, I will say, I do not ever really get this to play back on its own by disconnecting, even though it says it will. That could be my fault with communication of something on my computer or how I have it set up. I'm not sure. But what I do is I leave the track or the routine to do nothing. And that way I can manually actually either A, program it something with one of the trigger buttons, or B, I could just go in and easily just press play or have it linked to my phone and I could just press play from my phone. So I kind of just leave it at do nothing. You could try it for you. For me, it just kind of gets stuck loading, and then I basically have to go to Task Manager and force it to stop, So I just leave that to do nothing. So in order to link up, we're going to get to that once we save this. So for right now, we're just going to test it by pushing play.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
It's so nice to meet you.
So now we're done basically setting that up the way we want it. So we're going to save as. We're going to come to, okay, we're in desktop already, looks like. Yeah. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do talking. Can't spell, right? Talking test. Now that's going to load up. There it is. We can get out of this. Now what's going to happen is it's going to pop up right when we start playing it. But before we do it, we can go ahead and get our track skull ready and open, since that'll take a little bit to load in. And before we get ready to do the helmsman, what we actually have to do is, I guess I'm not done with those settings, because here's what needs to be done. First, connect your controller. Second, whatever skeleton you want to use for the live, you have to set the parameters again. So I want to use Sad Susan for my live skeleton. Then I would have to set these back exactly what they were on that paper. If I'm going to set it for Franklin, then it could be exactly the way it is right here, or I would have to go manually put all these digits in again. So you have to have that pre-planned and pre-ready to go. You got to know which one you want to utilize for live action. So right now, just for time's sake, I'm going to use Franklin and just keep it on Franklin. And so we have that all good and ready to go. So yeah, that should be it there. And make sure also that enabled is checked, which it is. So that's good. We're on the same comm. We're all looking good. Now we go over to our saved file. This is our actual save Helmsman Pro routine playlist. We click that open, and it's going to start immediately. See, it's loading routine 1 because it was a critical. Let me pause this real quick. You got to have this remote button on. 1, to use if you want to use your iPhone or Android. But 2, you have to have it turned on to communicate over here. When you click this button, this stuff will come off. Another thing to check before we go and try this, see, it did not save our COM port. So we have to change that to COM3 to match over here. Now that we have that set up, we should be able to do it. Let's try it.
Hi, I'm Susan.
By clicking that, now I'm controlling Franklin. He can be our live puppet. Hey, get off my lawn. We could disconnect. Now, since we assigned this to do nothing at disconnect, we can easily just go back right into the routine.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hello, I'm Franklin.
See that? Clicking that disconnect. Now automatically lets me do live. And then to click that out, everything stops and we can just push play.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Okay, so that wraps up this video. We successfully hooked up the sibling skeleton to Sad Susan. We recorded their routines. We brought them into VSA. We brought them into Helmsman Pro, created a playlist with it, and we broke it up with our live interaction to be able to go live with Franklin and then go back into the routine. So this is what you got to do, and it's a lot of fun to do. Your imagination go wild. And yeah, happy haunting, everybody.
Ahoy there, mateys! You haven't seen my buried treasure, have ya?